Today, we answer one of those questions: how can I do better in influencing, persuading, and selling? Everybody wants to do better, but they don't know really what to do. So they're always trying to find out the right words to say at the right time. And here's the fact. Most of the time, even though you've got the 7 magic words of persuasion on your side, most of the rest of the words don't matter that much. It turns out that you don't want to catch people in a good mood or a bad mood. Actually, all things being even, you really do want to catch a person in a bad mood. But here's what is critical about that decision or that choice for you. If you catch a person in a good mood or a bad mood, doesn't matter which, you have to take them on a roller coaster ride if you're going to get to yes. A few years ago, the study that I had mentioned is one in that a professor had given tests back to his students, and all of the tests were graded. The tests were graded, and then he would tell the student, as he handed it to them, he would give them, like, there's a test, and this one has an A on it, and that one has a C, and this one has an A, and that one has a C, and that one has an A, and that one has a C, and that one has an A, and that one has a C. Well, it turned out, after all of the students had received their tests, he then corrected himself on some of the tests. So he went through his logbook, and of half the people that got A's, he would say, Hogan, you didn't really get an A, you really got a C. Sorry about that, made a mistake. Johnson, you did get an A. Yes, you got an A. Yours is correct. Kellenhofer, you did not get a C. You really got an A. Lindy, you actually didn't get an A. You got a C. Melissa, you actually did not get a C. You got an A. Those were the options. There were 4 options. Either they did get a C, they did get an A, or they did not get a C and they did get an A. They did not get an A, they got a C. So in other words, some people were given news that was no news at all. They had the correct score. Other people were given news that was good news. They received this good piece of information. Hey, I didn't get a C, I got an A. That's nice. And then other people yet were given news. Hey, I got a great grade. Oh no, I didn't really get a good grade. Disappointment, right? Okay, so what happens now is the people leave the classroom, and now they're asked one by one by a student as they exit the room, hey, would you be willing to volunteer some time over at the charity? And they're given an opportunity, and they can select a number of hours from 0 to 8 hours for tomorrow's event, and they can give a number of hours. It turns out if the person got an A on the test, they gave the minimum acceptable amount of hours required. They gave 1 hour. That's it. They gave, actually it was 1.1 hours. If the person, however, got a C, they gave 1.2 hours. So the person who got an A, they gave less than anybody else. But what happens if the person got an A on the test, but really they found out, the professor told them that it was really a C? What happened with this person? This person, when they were asked as they left the room, they averaged over 2 hours of charity time that they agreed to donate the next day. And finally, for those people who got a C and then were told they actually did get an A, what happened with them? Those people donated over 3 hours of time to the charity. So people who did the best gave the least. People who did poorly or mediocrely, they were about the same as the people who did the best. Nothing. But once people found out that they experienced 2 emotions, they were disappointed and then happy, or happy and then disappointed, they actually doubled and tripled the amount of hours that they were willing to offer to the charity. Now that's pretty huge, because can you imagine what would happen if you were able to double or triple sales? Really interesting set of studies over in Poland. I'll just give you the summary because there's so many and they're so long. But basically, imagine that you walk up to your car and you see that you have a parking ticket. That's fear, right? Because you don't want to see that, and you're frustrated and you're upset. And then all of a sudden, you open it up and it turns out to be a leaflet for something else, like hair shampoo or a food product. All right? And then all of a sudden, a student walks up to you and says, excuse me, could I get 5 minutes of your time? I'd really like to interview you for my master's thesis on traffic control. It turns out, for those students who were given a traffic ticket, fear, and then relief when they found out that it really wasn't a traffic ticket, almost all of them, 3/4, 75%, were willing to give the interview. For those people who were just given a leaflet on their door. In other words, the leaflet, which looked kind of like a parking ticket, except for obviously it's not a parking ticket, it's not under the windshield. When it was just on the door, 37% of those people gave the students an interview for 5 minutes. But here's the thing, think about this. Because the person experienced fear and then relief, the student, the driver of the car, the person who would have gotten a parking ticket, they gave them twice as much as far as information, not only for the interview, but also twice as many people actually gave interviews in the first place. And what happened with those people who actually did have parking tickets on their car when the student came up? Not one person out of the control group of people who actually did get parking tickets, not one of them agreed to be interviewed by the student on traffic safety. The lesson, of course, is that if we can allow the people that we're working with, the people that we must influence and persuade, to experience two emotions, especially things like fear and relief, or disappointment and then relief. But it can also be the opposite, though, too. It can be feeling excited and then disappointed and then the influence attempt. That still works far better than dealing with people in a normal state of happiness or a normal state of disappointment. I like to go from negative to positive just because it's a little more effective. But all things being equal, it really doesn't matter. What you don't want to do is keep the same emotion throughout this conversation or through your sales letter that you're writing. You want to make sure that when you're going to communicate, you bring a person from emotion B to emotion A, and then you ask your question. If you do this, you could do as much as double or triple your results that you're getting in selling or getting the person to say yes for some other reason, improving compliance with your employees and the people around you. It's the instant drama resolution technique. I'll show you more of that next time I see you.